What was your New Year? Did you guys do anything exciting?
Yeah, we sat and looked at each other and didn't watch the ball drop, but
Yeah.
uh, I remember the year we were down there in the days when you could go down to Times Square. And
Oh, yeah.
we were teenagers at the time, I think, and a group of us went to a nightclub which was right on Times Square, but down in the basement of one of the buildings,
Huh.
hotel, one of the hotels or something. And then we came up for New Year's and went back down afterwards.
Nice.
So it was nice. Yeah.
Was it like as super crowded as it is now if you go to Times Square?
Oh, it was always crowded. The place was
Yeah.
packed. Yeah.
Interesting.
So it was fascinating.
Hmm.
Fascinating times.
Yeah, on one hand, I've always wanted to do it, but then on the other hand, I feel like it just seems like it would be a nightmare to be down in Times Square.
I didn't want to go down and just stand around for the night. So
Right.
by going to the nightclub to celebrate with some friends, it made a difference because we had a place to go off the street, but just be up there for that minute or so to,
Right.
a couple of minutes to see the crowd and say we had done it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the cold, so it doesn't seem like something I wouldn't want to stand around, but being in a
Yeah,
nightclub would be different. So
we did a lot of things, including uh, just before we got married. My sister's birthday was like June 6th, and we were getting married on the 12th, and we didn't want her birthday to be overshadowed by the whole thing. So we had taken her to a Broadway show the week before to make her feel special. Um, uh, Marv being the younger child, he had an older sister, and he didn't like older sisters. He thought they treated the younger ones mean. So he was always looking out for her, that kind of thing.
yes, I'm
So,
sure Jason would agree with that assessment.
oh yeah. Um, there was something else, and I've forgotten what it was that we had spoken about last week, and there was something that popped into my mind. Now it's popped out again. So, uh, probably having something to do with before we left the area. Where were you going this week?
We're going to St. Louis this week.
We're going
So
to.
was there anything else that because we talked about Ridgewood last week. So was there anything else that you remembered?
There was one thing, and I can't remember what it was, and I did write it down somewhere, but I can't find the paper.
That's okay.
In the midst of working on like with uh, stuff. So yeah, okay. St. Louis. I told you what I had told them when we moved out there.
Yes. Yes,
Uh,
that you were gonna come back. It was payback for them all moving to New York.
yes,
So
it was an interesting way to start a conversation with people that way. We I don't know what to say about St. Louis. It was different than New York in many ways. But the first thing we did was go down to the levee, and the song "See Them Shuffle Along." Well, Marv and I did that, and we sang the song "Shuffle Along on the levee" underneath the oak.
I like
Boy,
a thing because like whenever I used to drive with Mike to sometimes I'd go with him to his army weekends when he was in the Army Reserves, and like we'd pass Gary, Indiana, and I just break out with Gary, Indiana from Music Man, and he hated that, but I know what you mean.
it runs in the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did that, and they did have a showboat down there, which fascinated me because it was one of the big old-fashioned showboat type of things that we would take people when they came to visit home. Of course, there was a bar, and then they would do a melodrama, the old-fashioned melodrama. You know, the good, the evil, blah blah blah. You would hiss and boo. You know, and it was always fun. Then it disappeared.
Hmm.
I didn't know what happened to it, and somebody told me that they moved it up to St. Charles, which is just above the Missouri, where it comes in now.
Hmm.
So it was up that way. It may be back now for all I know, but it somebody had asked me, you know, had I ever been on a showboat? I said, yes, I have. Um, it was a fun thing to do.
Sounds
Um,
like it.
yes. As far as living in St. Louis, it was easy to get around. Um, unlike New York, which to me was always you never knew what was coming from where. Uh, it was St. Louis was more ordered.
Hmm.
We grew up listening to the Yankee games where they would talk about Yogi Berra growing up in St. Louis in the hill section of St. Louis. And ultimately, we decided we were going to go down to the hill section and see what it was about. The various Italian restaurants and Italian section. And on the way back, Marv said that was no hill, it was a pimple. So, uh, it's and when your father worked there, he worked for some company. I don't remember what he was doing at the time, but I had come to pick him up. It was, his car was in the shop or something. Pick him up from work because at work he used their car. He was doing some undercover stuff. I don't know. And talking to his boss, waiting for him. I went in to see if he was ready to come because it was like 10, 15 minutes after, and the city was dead at that point. You know, people leave. And Marv was quoted in the newspaper at a meeting downtown when they were building a hotel near the arch that uh, St. Louis is unlike New York. When people leave, the lights go out at 5 o'clock. The city is dead. Uh, and it's true. You know, you watch it happen. Well, anyway, I went in to speak to his boss, and he said to me that he wanted me to meet a friend of his who lived across the river uh, because the two of us sounded very much alike. And I can't think of her name right now. It just popped out of my head. It's the one who killed the ERA.
Oh,
People
Phil
were right.
Schlafly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The two of us sound very much and look very much alike. And and I thought that was funny. Fortunately, your father came in at that particular point. We never, I said to him, you know, yeah, someday I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
And we left it at that.
I don't know if I could think of like, you guys are definitely not anything like.
Philosophically, we were totally opposite.
Right.
So, but I'm sure she was probably a very nice lady.
Probably.
If she sounded like me and looked like me, you know, so be it.
I mean, she
Uh,
was very dedicated to her cause. So,
well,
you
as
know,
was I to mine.
right. Yeah.
So,
So, uh,
yeah, as I said, living there was interesting. I was involved with the real estate, and uh, it I got to see a lot of the area. We would do uh, once a week. We would go check the houses that were coming on the market and things like that. So it was interesting. I got to see a lot of the area, including new areas of St. Charles and the Upper County that were just opening or being built at the time. And where we lived, we had um, West Shore Plaza or whatever it's called, something like that. And it had a theater in the round. So we were very close to being able to go see shows there. While we're in St. Louis, Lena Horne was going through the country doing her last performances, you know, her farewell performance. and they had just redone the Fox Theater downtown St. Louis, and Marv and I went to see her. She was fantastic. I loved, just watching her was great.
Yeah.
So it was interesting times. I remember taking Stace and a bunch of her friends to a couple of shows, but it wasn't done in the new theater had not opened, so it was like an old arena or something that they had set up for seating for shows,
Hmm.
and it was fun. It was the one about the little girl, uh,
Annie?
Annie, yeah, that kind of fun. So, and there was another show or two that we took them to when my father and Irene came to visit. We took them to the showboat, and I took her to also a theater in the round performance. She had never seen a theater in the round, and I'm trying to think of. I'm not sure who it was that was performing that day, but they would come into the lobby after the show, and you had a chance to talk to them.
Hmm.
So it was always very nice, and she was fascinated. Marv and my father didn't go. The two of us went. It was not a show he was interested in, so, but it was nice to see. Uh, and the concept was new at the time. So
Hmm.
we grew up, of course, going to the Broadway shows, so it was
Right.
different. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, my cousin appeared in several, and we used to go see her.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, St. Louis. What else do you want to know about St. Louis?
So what made you guys move to St. Louis?
Work. Uh, Marv had an offer. He was doing some banks in New York City, and a group from St. Louis had come to one of the bank openings, the grand openings of the bank. And it was run, strangely enough, by a woman bank president,
Hmm.
which was unusual at the time.
Yeah.
She was a fascinating lady, very nice. But at these uh, grand openings, there was a group from St. Louis because they were doing hospitals, banks, uh, were their specialties.
Hmm.
So they didn't get the job, but they were interested in seeing who was doing it. And then he got an offer from them to come on out to St. Louis. That's when we had already moved down to New Jersey. He was looking for a new direction in his work because every time you have an economic recession, a lot of the work stops because you can't get the financing for the projects.
Right.
So uh, we were at that particular point when this offer came from them, and so they were willing to pay for the move and everything else to get him out there. And we went. He traveled as a result of that, just about everywhere. Uh, Ultimately, they divided it in sections between three vice presidents. He became one of the vice presidents, had a section of the country. But whenever there was a problem, he would be the person they sent to resolve it.
Hmm.
My favorite visit, because I used to travel with him, was to New Ulm, Minnesota, where they were doing a hospital. Just talking to the people who who ran the town. I think I told you it was a German town.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were there, they had their first Polish mayor, Polish descent. But it was the place in the country. I may have told you. I had been talking about it to some others lately. About the last Sioux uprising occurred there.
Hmm.
When the Indians attacked the town, yes, they attacked the brewery first and got drunk, and that's where the uh, army, the cavalry, found them in the morning, lying around the brewery. The town had been saved because they never got there. So, uh, but it was a fascinating place with their own type of bratwurst or various German cuisine.
Hmm.
The town, style-wise, everything was had the look of Germany. They had a huge statue of Herman the German in the center of town, 15-foot high statue as a tribute to him. When I was talking to Paul about it, one day. He said they only gave him a statue. He says, Lisa, Missouri, we named the town Herman. And there is Herman, Missouri, where they raise wine on the Missouri River just before it cuts into the Mississippi. So I've been there too. Uh, uh, but yeah, everything had that German feel because these were descendants of people who had migrated there in the covered wagons. It goes that far back. They had originally settled in New York State. I found out talking to the farmers, the wealthy ones with the 3 silos. I didn't know that's how you measured the wealth on farms, but I found out. Um, and it was, as I said, just fascinating. There was some guy who had his own zoo on his property. Literally, it was caged in African animals.
Wow.
So I got private tours of everything in town,
Wow.
um, and it was fun.
How often
Uh,
would you travel with Grandpa?
I'm sorry, how did I
How
travel?
often? Yeah, how often did you go with him?
Whenever I had the time, and he was going to a place that was interesting, and he liked the company. So, and for some reason, either the company paid for it or not, I don't know. But I think ultimately they did, and they had no objection to it. Uh, I obviously presented a good image for them.
Hmm.
So places like that, places in Tennessee, Kentucky. I never went to the Northwest when he did stuff up there, but when the mountain up in the volcano blew up in Washington State
Mm.
or that area, he was there the week after
Wow.
and had seen the damage, and he said it was tremendous. But there I had never been with him. Uh, but to a lot of the other places I was, he was probably in 49 of the 50 states. I don't think we made it to Alaska. But um, it's an interesting country. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way. I think I've flown over all of it, or almost all of it.
Yeah. How many states have you been to? Do you know?
How many states?
Yeah, have you been to?
Everything east of the Mississippi and more than half west of the Mississippi, including Hawaii.
Hmm.
That was a vacation we took. Um, and that was when we were still living in Pearl River, I think. But
Yeah, you talked about that. That was the time you like left, right? After
yeah,
the woman in the shop.
yeah, yeah. But when we went to San Francisco,
Hmm.
uh, we were supposed to get together with the sister of one of the people we were traveling with lived there. She was the one who greeted us at the airport with hors d'oeuvres, a tray of hors d'oeuvres in between flights. And we told them that we didn't want to bother them. So we didn't really contact them. We did a lot of sightseeing on around the first 2 days. And then the third or fourth day, we said we would, meet with them. And they said they would take us to all the tourist places. I said, we didn't want you to do that because I'm sure you're fed up with it. She says, yeah. She says, but take us to a place that you like, where you would go if you were going on a night out. Well, they did. It was a Japanese restaurant. We sat on the floor, enjoyed the food because we enjoy Japanese food anyway. And I had to stop her from eating a cigarette. Maybe it was a little too much sake or something. I don't know. But she was tasting everything, including a cigarette. And afterward, they took us to a place called the Bocce Ball, which is around the corner from the Opera House, where people would get up and sing.
Hmm.
Waiters, sometimes people from the opera, that kind of thing, for some coffee afterward. They had such a good time, they didn't want to leave, so they wanted to extend the evening as far as they could. We had a good time, and when their kids uh, came to New York, we took them out in return because they wouldn't let us pay for anything. They had such a good time.
Oh, nice.
So it was nice. Um, where else? Where else was I going with this?
I guess go back to St. Louis. So you continued to um, work in real estate in St. Louis.
Yes, and I had worked out a deal with the uh, people who did the hiring personnel department to send a lot of the new people to us or to me. And if it was somebody who worked with Marv, I would give them to somebody in the office because I didn't want any conflict, uh, and then take the others. Uh, it it was it was interesting, and as I say, in dealing with people. I had one lady who, when her husband died, sold her house. That's when I first met her. Then she bought another one against my advice because, as I told her, it was too many steps and things for her. I just didn't think, I thought she should get something away from that. Well, after a year or two, she came back and sold that one. I got her another one, same subdivision. Then her son moved out of the city to the suburbs, so she wanted something there. Uh, so we went and looked, and I showed her a subdivision, which by the time we had gotten there was closed for the day. And she wanted to go out the next the next day again to look with me, and I should have registered her. I didn't, but I couldn't go that day. It was Paul's wedding or something was coming up, and we had stuff to do. So she went with her son. They bought something, and I lost the commission on it.
Oh, jeez.
So you call it, loyalty.
Right.
She had no idea. It was, that's what was happening. But her son, thought it was saving money. For whom?
Mm. Right.
Oh no, so this is, like several years dragging this woman around, and then they do something like this. So when she called me on something else, I told her to talk to her son. That was it. I was done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, real estate people were interesting. At the time, Century 21 was in bloom uh, with their motivational speakers and things like that. Were constantly being dragged to various places. And to me, motivational speakers sell you self-deception. Why you should work for no money without getting paid, kind of thing, and make it sound so good.
Mhm.
So it uh, I guess I always had a sense of humor about that whole thing, and I couldn't take it all seriously.
Right.
It didn't make any sense to me.
Right, because
I
I think you were talking about, because real estate agents, they only make the money when they sell the house or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's that kind of thing. It may have changed now, the whole profession. I don't know where it's at this particular point, and um, I'm not sure what's even happened with fees. I think that's changed drastically at this particular point. I don't know when you bought a house now. Uh, did you go through an agent or?
Yeah, when we bought our house, we didn't pay our real estate agent. We didn't have
No,
anything to
it comes out
sell.
of yeah,
Yeah,
but
so it just came out of whatever.
yeah, part of the fee
Yeah.
of what you pay. But that too has changed so that there's very little uh, that's guaranteed anymore. Everything seems to be negotiable. Like it used to be, like a 6% or whatever it was, went to the real estate agents listing and selling, and they would divide then that fee between them.
Yeah, I have no
So,
idea. I just know my
yeah,
real estate agent got a check, and that's all about all.
yes. Well, I'm saying it was that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
they got paid, but now it's changed to such a degree that I don't know where it's at. I'm gonna have to check with one of my friends who is in real estate right now.
Yeah.
I don't
Well, real
know.
estate is all crazy right now. I mean, like,
Yeah,
I was talking to Donna about it, and like, she told me that when they bought their house, like 1990 or so, I think the first one that they had, she paid her interest rate, or her rate was like 11% or something like that. And when we bought our house, because Mike was in the army, we had a VA loan, and so, but ours was at this 2018 was at 4.25, which we thought was like great. And then we just refinanced for 2.25, which like it's crazy to think about, like just like the rate between, like, I mean, I don't know, over 30 years, like that's like 9% difference between what Donna paid and what I paid. So
it used to be about 6 or 7% back in those days. So I'm not sure.
yeah,
Trying to remember when
yeah.
we
I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, obviously, 2020 was kind of a crazy year. So
when we moved into this unit that we have here, this condo. Uh, we decided we would rent for a year or so and see what the community was like. And then the owner came to us and said he was going to sell the unit. We would have to move. So we asked him how much he wanted, and he told us, uh, and it was at that time a very fair price. So we said, okay, we'll buy it. He says, well, how long will it take, for the getting the loan and everything? I said, no, no, we're going to pay cash now. It's wow. He was shocked and delighted. I'm delighted too, because I don't have to worry about that except for just the maintenance fee on a monthly basis.
right.
But uh, it has fluctuated over the years, and I find that interesting also.
Hmm.
Um, we I've seen it go very high and then, as you talked, very low percentage
Hmm.
with the special 4%, 6%, that kind of thing. But I've seen it up to 10, 12, 15%. It depends on the time and where you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, always interesting.
Hmm.
I'm trying to remember what this was for. I have a note here that, uh, I don't know, Marv was looking at something the other day. So we now have our latitude and longitude written down. Why? I don't remember. So we know where we are.
That's good.
I'm working on too many projects at the moment. So forgive me if my mind is a little, as I say, bludgeoned. Get this word mixed up.
That's okay.
Okay. I'm trying to finish the cookbook, so I'm sort of at the end of it, adding um, recipes for past the veggies into salads, and then I want to do desserts, and that'll finish it, and then I can begin to send it out.
Nice.
I've got the show, which I don't know what's happening. I have to speak to my husband. They're beginning to give shots now, so
Oh yeah.
uh, we're trying to find out how to get one since we're in the category that's in the first batch. But
Oh really?
they started. They I think they made an announcement something about 50,000 would be available, and now it's down to 25,000. So I don't know what's happening or where. And then the place we live at here is a senior community, and we were trying to work with them to find out if they were going to set something up to do it in house. Um,
Hmm.
in the past, when they've done things, they've set up something like in the parking lot where you could drive in, get your, whatever, and go on. Um, they're working on it,
Oh,
but
nice.
they can't get commitments either from the
Right.
state.
Yeah.
It's, so it's crazy. We don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. My friend Hannah, she's a nurse, so she kept getting rescheduled because they kept running out at the hospital that she works at. And so then she finally got her first dose. My sister-in-law is, I think, supposed to get hers today. And then Gabby gets hers on her birthday, actually. So it's like a nice birthday present. So, and then, because Gabby works in a assisted, it's a rehab and assisted living, or rehab and assisted living facility.
Yeah.
And then Fallon is a phlebotomist at a hospital. So they're all in healthcare. And then Mike, they originally were supposed to be in tier 1. The police were in tier 1. But then they got moved, I think, because they don't come in direct contact with people like healthcare and firefighters necessarily do. But so we don't know when he'll get it, but
Yeah, I
it's,
think that's crazy. So
and the city of Chicago is different from Cook County. So the city of Chicago got their own batch, whereas Cook County got their own batch. So
everybody has different rules.
yeah, I think I'm like at the bottom of the list. I think like kids are the only thing that's like after me, is like in terms of like priority, because I work at home. I don't go anywhere. So like I don't have a, essential job. I'm not old. I don't have any like pre-existing conditions. So I'm like at
It's
the bottom.
it's the craziest or the most disorganized thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
To put it bluntly.
right. Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. We were talking to the doctor's office today. They can't get shots,
yeah.
and they're the ones who deal. It's basically front line with people.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we find it frustrating. If we find out that we can get shots here, we'll see if we can get them to come over and do it.
Right.
So it's the world gets less well organized under this administration than I've ever seen it.
Yeah.
Um, every time, if you look at it historically, every time there's a Republican administration, we go in the tank. Um, and they keep coming back with the same nonsense. What's going to be interesting is to see what happens um, with the certification of the
Yeah.
election.
Yeah.
That's sheer
Can't believe.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Uh, I truly don't understand the gross stupidity. It's the only way I can put it.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't make any sense, because it's just over and over again.
Mhm.
There's been no mass voter fraud. There's nothing wrong with the elections. I find it interesting too that like the people, like some of the senators that are like against it, of certifying the election, like were reelected in the same election. So I'm like, does that mean that your election?
You have one of the most dishonest men as our president, and why they haven't stopped him yet, I don't know. This man belongs in jail, period.
Yeah.
Uh, and I keep hearing, from I have one, two, three, about half a dozen at the most, people who are supporters of him, who I think are dumb. I think uh, today it was. I'm trying to remember what she sent me. Something to do with it, but I sent her some email anyway about it, and it had to do, I think, with the one of the Democratic ministers or something who read a prayer and said "Amen" and "A women," and how terrible that was, and doesn't he know, blah blah blah, and on and on. I told her it's the new thing. We're trying to get equality. It's I have to look for ways to save myself from telling, saying, excuse me, you're an effing moron. uh,
Yeah, on New Year's, Gabby, Mike, and her boyfriend Max and I, we all watched Death to 2020. It's on Netflix. And it was like, it's funny. So it's like, famous people, like actual actors portraying, they're all characters. So like Samuel L. Jackson is a New York Times reporter. Lisa Kudrow is like a political pundit. And so like they're like making fun of 20. So it's like it's a mockumentary. And so it's like funny, but then at the same time you're like, oh, but this is all real.
that's the problem.
And it like just happens. So you're like, it's funny. They like make jokes and you're like, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I mean, like, this was like, I don't know if I should laugh yet or like, you're like, but this is still happening. So
It's true. It does. It's it's an unreal world. Yes, is the
yeah,
only way I can put it.
at the end they oh, we're gonna have you say some phrases for 2021, and they like make up ridiculous things for them to say, and I'm like, but no, you can't say that because then it'll happen, because like who knew, like who would have thought that this was going to be how 2020 was going to be. You can't say anything about what you think is going to happen in 2021 because then it will happen.
Well, yeah, it's it's an interesting world.
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, Politics, especially, and political animals. I, uh, I had spoken to you about Marv doing work in the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
When he took me down there with him, after having worked and met with the president, Balaguer. Uh, did I tell you the story about how he got home in time for my birthday?
I don't think you told me here. No.
Okay. He had a meeting with the plane left at like 2 in the afternoon, or 3 in the afternoon, and his presidential meeting was in the morning, and it got delayed a little bit to about 1. So he wanted to get out of there and get to the airport so he wouldn't miss the plane. And he explained it to the president as they were meeting, El Presidente. And he said, not to worry, you'll make the plane. So he said, okay. And they discussed whatever they discussed. And then, time is running. And he, reminded him, he says, don't worry. He says, I'll give you my car. So in the presidential car, they get to the airport. There is this plane sitting, waiting to take off, surrounded by tanks, Dominican tanks. But inside that, the American Marine Corps from the embassy is guarding the plane from them and wondering what the hell, why won't they let it take off? Well, up comes the presidential vehicle, out steps Marv and another guy, and they get aboard. And he says that he got greeted by this big 6'3" black Marine who said to him, get the hell aboard this before we have a war. So he got on the plane, everything disappeared, the plane took off, and off they went. When they landed, they let the two of them off at the end of the runway. They were picked up by the State Department in the limousine who were going to take them home. They said, no, we have our cars here. Well, they took them to the parking lot in the rain, but they wouldn't pay the fee to get in to take them to their car, so they had to walk in the rain. It was just a weird, but he got home for my birthday.
That's good.
Or our anniversary or whatever it was. Going down there was interesting, and meeting these people. And I had a lot of fun with it. They would send the couple who was financing this project off to just normal god awful places and take us to the best. There was something about how when I first met the people from the Dominican Republic, it was the wife of somebody, and it was in New York City at a restaurant. And she spoke broken English. I spoke broken Spanish, but we got along and we started laughing, at each other's uh, stuff. So the word went out down there that I was okay. We were okay. So when we went down, we had a lot of fun with the people there. But I even got interrogated by head of their secret police, chief of their secret police. And while we were discussing the size of cockroaches in New York versus the size of roaches down there, strange things were happening. As we're sitting poolside one day, suddenly the man Marv has been negotiating with and his wife were in the lobby, and we got word they wanted to see us. So we threw something over our bathing suits and went to meet them. And Marv said, talk to him in Spanish. He doesn't speak English. So I said to him, tengo mucho gusto en conocerle. And I mentioned their names. And he said, Mrs. Slam, it's a pleasure to meet you. And Marv said to him, you speak English, you son of a bitch. He says, yes. He says, but that's business. This is pleasure. We just stopped by to say hello. We were on our way to Mexico on something, and heard you were in town and just wanted to greet you and that kind of fun. Um, so we've always had fun in no matter what we've been involved in, and meeting some interesting people
Nice.
and
So that was
creating
in
real problems.
yes. What years was that?
We were still living in Pearl River at the time, because that's where this Rockland County is where this guy lived. Uh, is the same one who wanted to build on an island up in Maine that never came about. And the kids were small, so we traveled sometimes with them on that trip to Maine, not in the Dominican Republic. But it hard to describe. So it's probably in the late 60s
Okay.
that most of this occurred.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of political connections. Uh, I, I I don't know how to describe it, but no matter where we were, we always wound up in some political situation. On the airplane, even going down to the Dominican Republic to begin with, I had read a book, several books on what was happening down there, so I would be familiar with it. And as I am uh, sitting on the plane, they had to change the tire before we took off. So we had time to stand and wander around. I turned around and I'm looking at this woman behind me, and I said, "You're the wife of Ambassador, oh my God, Ambassador Martin." They're sitting right behind me. She said, "Yes." She says, "How did you know me?" She says, I said, "There was a picture of you in the book. Uh, you were heading up League of Women Voters Education Fund project in the Dominican Republic." She says, "Oh my gosh." She says, "Yes, there was a small picture in there, but you recognize me from that?" I said, "Yes." So we got into a conversation. When we landed and I waved goodbye to them, they almost wouldn't let us in the country because they didn't like him politically. So it took our people a couple of minutes to get that squared away so we could get through and get in. So you got to be careful who you talk to and who you don't.
Right, because when you were living in St. Louis, you met somebody else on a plane, right? Like,
Yes, coming back from Washington, Anita Hill
yeah.
sat down next to her. And what happened that day is there was a possibility that our plane wouldn't land in St. Louis because of a snowstorm. and she had said to me, "Look, if you have to go on to Kansas City," she said, "I live near the airport. You can come and stay with me for the night." I mean, it was that kind of thing. I don't know why or how I make these connections with people, but it, it's the way it happened.
I mean,
Um,
the best story I have from like staying next to somebody is this crazy lady talked to me on an Amtrak train. Like, I don't meet cool people on.
it's I, it's I guess as I told you, when I was in the league and they wanted to combine, I was the one they would send to talk to the other people because they did not, they couldn't talk to them because they didn't get along. I got along with people because I didn't mind being silly about myself. It wasn't an ego thing with me. It
Mhm.
was getting the job done. And the same was true with working with the extreme liberals and the extreme conservatives. The Conservative Party never attacked the league when I was president because they felt I was fair with them too. Um, and I had no problem with, telling it like it was with people as politely as I could. That's all.
Did you
Uh,
continue any of that kind of work when you were in St. Louis, or
I would continue with them? No,
yeah, did you do any? You didn't do any of that kind of work in St. Louis?
no. No, I was busy enough with uh, the kids. And in St. Louis, I recall, for example, Stace did a book report, and I'm trying to think of the name of uh, the play she was talking about. Death of a Salesman, it could have been, or something like that, which was written by a Jewish author.
Hmm.
And she had asked me a question about it, and I gave her an answer, and she wrote about it. Uh, and her teacher said that uh, what she was saying was wrong because the play definitely resembled good Christian values. I said, ask your teacher to find out how it represented good Christian values being written by a Jewish author. So he went home and spoke to his wife, who was Jewish, and came back and said, "Your mother was right. I was wrong, and the book is wrong. The little, clip notes thing
Uh-huh.
is wrong."
Hmm.
So uh, that's the kind of thing I would get into, uh, good or bad. I don't know. So I didn't get into political stuff in that sense, but I would get into political things with individuals. It's There's a gal that I studied with for the exam that I met in one of the classes, and we were going to go celebrate after we took the exam. She never showed up for it. I found out she and her daughter died in a house fire
Oh no.
the day before. That hurt, you know.
Yeah.
To see it happen. I found an article in the newspaper, trying to check her out, find out what happened. Somebody gets sick or something. No, amazing. So yeah, St. Louis was a strange experience for me.
Yeah. How long were you guys there?
About 7 years. At that particular point, Marv was not one who took uh, dic- being dictated to very well, and he had a boss who was a dictator.
Hmm.
Uh, and when Stace, he had taken Stace to the office one weekend to pick something up, and they met some guy coming down the stairs, and they spoke for a few minutes and then went on up, and then she asked, "Who is he? The janitor?" No, that was the head of the company. So we always joked about him being the janitor, but to her, that's what he looked like. Um, she um, did very well in St. Louis, and got her degree while we were out there. And uh, it interesting time. She ultimately moved to Chicago with us and then down here to Florida. So,
Yeah. So how
so
long were you? So you moved after that back to New Jersey briefly, right?
very briefly, yeah.
And then
Uh,
went to Chicago.
yeah. Yeah. Uh, he had an offer from somebody. Uh, there was an intermediary who was here in Florida who, and he's the guy who ultimately brought us to this area because he lived here. And I liked it. And I remember playing golf with him, which was fascinating because uh, the golf course we played on was very flat. And he would hit the ball probably a mile, but most of it rolling. It would just roll, a little loop, and then just keep rolling on the flat ground. It's the most amazing way of playing golf I had ever seen. I was just learning the game. I had learned it in Chicago when we lived there. That we lived right next door to the golf course.
Mm.
I got Marv to teach me.
So you
And
had never really played, had you played before, or you had just never
no,
played until,
I had never played.
how
Uh,
come?
I never had the time to.
Mm,
Bob would go play, and with the guys,
mm,
and I was just busy with other things, the league and other things at the time. So I never learned. I said, while we're here, and it's right next door, you're going to teach me. And so he did. He said, well, what's your goal? I said, to beat you.
mm. Did you ever beat him?
Yes, ultimately. But I never broke 80. That was really my goal to do. Even playing here, I for some reason didn't.
Mm,
82 was my best score or something like that, which was not bad, but not good enough. The two gals that I played with down here were both very good players. They also wound up, playing in the 80s, but they were PO'd at me because they felt if I played more than once a week, I could be somebody who was shooting the 60s and 70s. And I said, it wasn't my, I had other things to do.
right.
So playing once a week was fine. I said, I had grew up with a back problem. I said, if I play more than that, I said, something's going to give. So uh, let me enjoy it. And shooting in the low 80s is good enough.
Yeah. So how long did you guys live in Chicago for?
I think that was only about 3 years
Mm,
before we made the move down to Florida. And actually, he was working in Northwest Indiana at the time. And there was the people down there who had a project in Florida that took us down to Florida and in this area, in Clearwater area. And we had options of where in Florida also to move. And I liked the West Coast. It was different. It was uh, less real Florida. it, uh, it was like anywhere USA kind of thing. Tampa was
mhm,
different than like a Miami.
mm, mhm.
So we enjoyed it here. And uh, later on, during the time we were here, he also traveled around the state of Florida with after he left his architectural stuff and was going to sort of semi-retire till he saw a new product that came out having to do with coatings, where you could put it on anything and um, it will last forever, basically.
Mm,
So if he put it on in like a sensitive area of a like sewage treatment plant because of the gases and stuff like that, it wouldn't destroy it. They could use it on the. I think it was up in Jacksonville. They painted the Marines painted it on a platform or where they loaded stuff on ships and things like that. And they would have to paint it top to bottom, and so by the time they got through going around the whole thing, they would have to start all over again the following year. This product, you put it on once, you didn't have to touch it again.
Wow.
And it was something developed in Europe. It was a water-based paint, and they Europeans developed and was brought over here by one company. And he met the man after reading about it who was selling it in this country. And we became friends, and he started selling it in the state of Florida. And it took us from one end of the state to the other. I would go with him, keep him company. And I saw probably every sewage treatment plant in the state of Florida, amongst other places. But that's what I used to joke about. But it was a fascinating product. However, what happened is it was ultimately, the copyright was ultimately sold to an American company who felt it was too much competition, and they changed the formula so that they could continue to sell their product. So it wouldn't last forever. If which we had been like to the space agency and things like that, where they were buying some of this stuff because of its lasting quality.
Right.
So that I don't think any longer is made. So just it fascinates me when you have something good and you can't make money on it, enough money to satisfy some of the greed. That's the kind of thing that happens.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I'm sure my dad would talk to you all about the grocery store chains in Chicago and how that is basically what happened with Mariano's. So we've had a whole conversation about that. So
interesting. Like
yes. Yes. Yeah. He'll tell you all about grocery stores. So but just made me think of his complaining about Mariano's. So anyways, so you lived in Glen Ellen, right, in Chicago. What made you pick there?
I'm sorry, what did I want?
What made you pick Glen Ellen?
Actually, we were looking just for something nice, and we had found a real estate agent recommended by somebody, and she had suggested that particular community that we condo community next to the golf course. And I happened to like it, and I had made some friends there while we were there. We would take our morning walks, a couple of the ladies, stop by the clubhouse for coffee or something and chat. It was interesting, and we liked it. And it was convenient for him, even though he was working in Northwest Indiana, because it was an exit right off the highway there that he could drive right in. So, and also to get to the airport was convenient from that location. And he was doing more traveling, so it made it a good place. It wasn't too far from where your parents were either, in that sense. I mean, it was easy for me to get to.
Right.
I can get a direct, run into the city if I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just, I don't know, convenient. Get to the mall,
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What more do you need?
Right.
It's there are little side stories to each of these things that in each of the places that we've been. It fascinated me living in Chicago for the first time to see people playing golf in the snow with an orange ball. And I said, they're crazy. And that was out there, one of the, somewhere around the mall that is like a big open area or something like that.
Uh-huh.
That fascinated me. I said, Chicago is a crazy.
Yes, there is some crazy here.
You play golf?
No, I've only played with you guys. I haven't. I keep wanting to go, but nobody really wants to go with me. So I there's like I said, there's several golf courses around me. There's one down the street that's run by the Niles Park District. There's another one not too far away. It's the Billy Caldwell one. So like I don't know, I just gotta find somebody that'll go with me. I haven't been in
Well, as
years.
I say, when we came here before we joined the country club, and there was a public course that I joined that had a ladies' league, and I met some people there. I just joined, and started playing until I felt more comfortable, with it from what Marv had taught me to start with. So that's done, and they, I think, built some rental housing now, yeah, on
Hmm.
that site. So
Hmm.
things change.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's definitely something I want to
Okay.
go do. So I'll have to see what Tam O'Shanter, I think is the name of it. That's where the Niles Park District runs. So I mean,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I think it's a public course. So
Okay. That's
yeah.
Irish.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know why it's called that, but it's
Yes, yeah, no, I found it fascinating because I could hit the ball. To me, it's taking a baseball swing and just bringing it down.
right.
Uh, and it was fun, and I enjoyed playing with the ladies. And uh, personalities were always interesting. I think I did win the Flight B championship one year, and came close a couple of other years before I finally gave it up. This Marv doesn't play now, and uh, I think I took it up basically to play with him. So when we belonged to the country club, we used to play couples
Hmm.
uh, tournament league, and I enjoyed them. If I could hit over the lake, I think they've changed the course now, so I don't know what it would look like in that place. And I played a lot of the courses around. Played up in Central Florida with some contractor who had to chase a gator away from my ball so I could get to it. uh, it's fascinating playing here. Yes, you
Yeah,
never know what you run into.
right. Gators. I mean, the worst that we run into here is flooding, but gators, that's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's a little different. Yes,
Hmm.
I haven't run into the snakes, but I understand now there's a pack of wolves that live off the golf course in the woods,
Huh.
and they're protected by state law or something, so nobody wants to go after them.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't have animals, so it doesn't concern me. But the people who live on the other side, yeah, keep their pets leashed. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, interesting everywhere. Yeah. Um, yes, as I say, living all over or traveling all over the country has been fascinating. From Maine to San Diego. I haven't been up northwest, but almost everything else. But just interesting. We even stopped at Salt Lake City on the way back from uh, your father's. No, not your father's. It was your cousin's.
Susie's
Susie's
wedding?
wedding. Susie's wedding. Yeah. Salt Lake City and places like that. 'Cause we had a friend who was a Mormon, and we promised to stop by and let him know what everything looked like. So even heard the choir and all that kind of thing. And got in my first trip to Reno. I had not been there. We always went to Vegas,
Mm.
so we did a little um, blackjack there. I'm a blackjack player. Um, Marv used to tease me about, here's your $20 for the night, and and when he came back one night, he saw the same $20 still sitting in front of me. He says, "Well, let's go cash in because we're gonna go see a show. Everybody's getting together now." So I took about $300 out of my bag. And he said, "Where did that come from?" I said, "I play with the $20." And that's it. So I've enjoyed it. Uh, and Dominican Republic, as I said, when we went down there, we found it fascinating. I always felt that the games were fixed there. It was a very small casino in the hotel, not busy when we were there. I was winning. Not a lot, $100, $80, whatever. The people we were traveling with, the money people, told us we should not be gambling because it was a terrible thing to do. Well, one night I understand that they went in and sat down and gambled and lost about $15,000. Now, how you can let yourself do that, I don't know. But the money meant nothing to them, I don't think. Well, it
Right.
did, but yeah, it wouldn't have been
It's more an ego than like a I can't pay rent type of
yes,
thing. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, they got hooked on it, and it was they were not playing smart.
Yeah.
Uh, it interesting people, some of the dumbest people in the world. I'm more and more convinced somebody else just do something on that. Uh, and as I say, it is fascinating. The, the people that we've had as clients, I think I mentioned to you that we met a client of Marv's in Dallas one day, changing planes. We were supposed to meet there. And I said to Marv, who is he going to show up with, his wife or his mistress? And what happens if both of them show up at the same time? And he looked at me and said, "It's not going to happen. Believe me." This time it was his wife. We were going to Vegas because he wanted to buy the hotel that was for sale.
Mm.
We went to look at it, and that's the one that had the big crack in it that they just tore down a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Uh, and I had said to Marv, why would he want to buy that hotel because of the structural defect? He says, "I don't know. He's not the brightest man in the world." I said, "What did you advise him?" I said, "Advise him not to buy it."
Right.
But it was the first time that we had been to Vegas on more of a business thing than a gambling junket.
Mm.
And so it was interesting to deal with the government and other parts of Vegas that we hadn't seen before. So always, as I say, traveling with him has always been interesting all over the country.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Anything else that you want to hear, or are we done?
Well, we can wrap it up for this week, and then next week, since we're in the 80s, and we can talk about your kids getting married and you becoming a grandma and then moving to Florida. So I think
Oh gosh, all that excitement. That's
we're
started the whole new
finally
thing.
we're finally at the end of your book. So this is all brand new information. I mean, not brand new information. This past 35 years. But
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm waiting to finish, as I said, a couple of other projects to get to book three, which will be
mhm,
the Florida years, basically.
right, yeah,
And what I found interesting about my Florida years is that we're now working on, I think it's our 12th show that we're doing. And I never thought that I would wind up in show business. Before that, we were involved with the entertainment committee, so it was hiring professional talent. And it's just been total showbiz. I'm glad I thought I was totally retired from it all about a year or so ago, and then all of a sudden they decided, with what was happening, we should try one more show. Well, I have that done, and now I'd like to see, as I told Marv, one more show. I said I don't want to be this time director also, but I have an idea of putting together a show about the music of Carole King and Stephen Sondheim and combining it, calling it Carole and Steve on Broadway or something like that, which I think will be fun.
Yeah.
I may not do it, but we'll see what happens. And combining one more time has always been a move to combine. We have two theater groups, the Theater Workshop and our group, the Jesters,
Right.
who have been at each other for like 20 some odd years or more. And now want to combine again, and we're going to see how it goes both ways and who's going to object. Um, and no, I don't want any part of running it. I would truly like to retire from that. I enjoy the people and everything else, but enough is enough. I can't get to my own stuff that I want to finish.
Right.
And I got a mess here that I can't get to cleaning out because of it.
Right. Yeah.
But yes, there's I don't know what if we live another 20 years, which is really rare at this age, but possible. What the next step will be? You know, where will we go? What will we do? I don't know. Uh, you know, whether it's going to be writing or something else is going to come along and be totally different. Uh, maybe do some history. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's always something, Kayla.
right.
And
Yes.
that's what keeps your mind that young. So
Yeah. I know. It seems like you've always had some sort of side project. So the
yes, yes. So yeah, I think I'm not somebody who sits idly by either. So
no, yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't think I could be just a stay-at-home mom that didn't have anything else going on. Like, I love Addie, but I am so ready to go back to an office. So
it never bothered me being home with the kids, but it wasn't that uh, during the time that they were growing up, especially during the time and forever, and we did not talk about that, is at home I would work on a lot of the um, signs for exhibitions and things like that. In those days, we had the lettering that you had to paste on and things like that. So I would be the one to do that at home.
all right.
I had the time to do it. And I would do the cartoons for my own amusement. Someday I'll put
Mhm.
those together. I did do a League of Women Voter cartoon, which did make the editorial page of our local newspaper for League Day, League Woman Day. I did a League Woman, like a Superwoman character that I developed, and every year that I did the years that I was on the board that did the annual report, I would do a cover sheet for it with some sort of women doing something, dancing, whatever, uh, marching in the suffragette parade. So yeah, there's a whole other section that needs to be put together in the book. And then I did write that other one. I think I told you about the wisdom of film.
Yes.
So that kind of thing is, as I say, I don't know where I'll go next, but the mind doesn't stop,
Right.
and that's what keeps you going.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, cool. So we'll wrap up for this week.